Thank you, Lord, for all the blessings you give all of us in this chamber, Lord. We're so blessed. God, just thank you for taking care of us. Thank you for taking care of our families while we're away, Lord. Thank you for taking care of our state and taking care of our country, Lord. Our country needs prayer. Understand what our country needs and our state needs, Lord. Let's try not to be selfish. Let's try to do what is good for us and good for our state. And Lord, again, thank you for your blessings. Thank you for all that you do. We are so blessed in this great state of Mississippi. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hooah!
Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Close the machine, Madam Clerk.
Here's a quorum present, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I have the reading of the journal. Gentleman from Itawamba moves we dispense with the reading of the journal. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Report of select committees.
We have none, Mr. Speaker.
Report of standing committees.
We have reports on the calendar, Mr. Speaker.
Introductions of bills and constitutional amendments. Gentleman from Marion, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading of the introductions.
Is there objection? Hearing none, we will do that. Resolutions, petitions, memorials, and other papers.
We have none, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. This time we'll have introductions of guests and visitors. Do we have any to be introduced? Gentleman from Copiah, Mr. Holloway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, if you would direct your attention to the North Gallery, we have our doctor of the day, Dr. Edith Smith Rayford. She hails from that little big town down I-55 to Double Nickel, where the grass is greener, the air is cleaner, the sky is bluer, and the sugar is sweeter. Dr. Rayford. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Doctor. We appreciate your service to us today. All right, I don't see any further introductions. We will go to the calendar. Motion to reconsider calendar. Any chairman have an item here they wish? Gentleman from Walthall.
Item number 4, House Bill 556, and move the table.
Those opposed have 5 minutes. Any opposed? All right, I don't see any. In favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Gentleman from Octavia Hall, Mr. Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I held House Bill H.R. 4 on a motion to reconsider. I would move there to adopt the committee sub, and in lieu of the original bill.
You want to reconsider the vote? Is that what you want to do?
Yes, sir.
All right. Motion is to reconsider. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. That item is back before the House. You're recognized.
I would move to adopt the committee sub, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, well, I think you need to come tell us what that is, and so people will know.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, H.R. 4 is Jackson State University's Lady Tigers basketball team. We needed to have added some information into this for it to be a good resolution. That's the reason we're bringing it back up, was to make certain that information was correct. That's my explanation of the bill, and I would move that we accept the committee sub.
Any questions? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam. Well, it's just a resolution. Okay. If you favor the resolution, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. It is adopted. Gentleman from Tate, Mr. Lamar.
Thank you. Motion to reconsider calendar, item 2, House Bill 509, move the table.
Those opposed have 5 minutes. Any opposed? I don't see any. If you favor the motion, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, one small change.
We do need a copy of your amendment,
Oh,
sir.
I'm sorry, yes, sir.
You recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One small change on line 245. We want to delete the words "a notarized affidavit stating" and inserting in lieu thereof the word "certification." Simply removes the requirement of a notary, which would be an impediment to doing this online, which is our final hope here. That's an explanation of the amendment.
Questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Amendment is adopted.
Move adoption of the bill.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 319. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 118 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Anything further on the motion to reconsider calendar? All right. Takes us to the rules calendar. Rules passes. Ways and Means calendar passes. Brings us to the general calendar. Item 1, transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to go to item 1, House Bill 1245. Call it up and make the usual motion.
The gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended, bill considered and engrossed, read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Have an amendment.
You recognize for your amendment.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, a situation has arisen that brought to our attention by the gentleman from Newton about MDOT grass mowing tractors passing through municipalities and disengaging the PTO and not cutting the grass while going from one end of the municipality to the other. So this bill is meant to correct that for any city of 10,000 or less that wants MDOT to do that, then MDOT would be, will be required to do that. We made some minor modifications to the bill as it was written, which is in the amendment, which says it's only grass cutting, not drainage, not litter collection and things like that. I've shown the amendment to the author, and the author has agreed that that is in keeping with what he wanted to accomplish with the bill. So that's an explanation of the amendment.
Questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Anything further on the bill?
Nothing further on the bill. Move
Questions
adoption.
on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 1245. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 116 yeas, 0 nays, bill is adopted. Next item, public property. Chairman's recognized.
Speaker, I'd like to go to item 2, House Bill number 8. Call it up and make the usual motion.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered and gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield to the gentleman from Hines.
Gentleman from Hines recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, House Bill 8, this simply clarify the usage of the space of the Le Meridian property developed adjacent to UMC on Lakeland Drive. This bill was passed actually in 2014, and at that time it was required that it would have mixed-use property on the lower level, but they've had problems with finding, I guess, some commercial tenants for their bottom level, and so the managers have asked could they go ahead and change that they can do. Stipulations to the property consist of mixed-use development, and the requirements that consist of 10,000 square feet of street-level space that the property has not met the lease requirements. And so at this current moment, the property management office is the only office that is in that, development. So we just want to remove those requirements for that 10,000 feet space, and that's the explanation of the bill. I'll yield now for any questions.
Questions? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurred on House Bill 8. You favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 117 yeas, 0 nays. Bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to go to item number 3, House Bill number 9. I have an amendment, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered and gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized for his amendment.
Here. Let's see, I gave you my amendment. On lines 26, Mr. Speaker, there was an omission. It should have read, it reads craft center. It should have said firing range. That's the only change to the bill.
Questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, this bill is a bill to name the firing range, the Colonel Pat Crowan firing range. Mr. Crowan was a retired lieutenant colonel at the Mississippi Law Enforcement Officer Training Academy in Pearl. And he's done 30-plus years as a patrolman and instructor at the academy. He became an instructor in 1985. Since then, he's trained over 3,000 law enforcement officers annually up until May 2017. He's excelled and advanced in rank from Master Sergeant to Lieutenant and Captain, named Director and promoted to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel in 2006. Retired from the patrol in 2007 while maintaining a leadership position as director of the academy. And in the National Rifle Association competitions, he's won 11 national titles and 13 world titles in competitive shooting. That's an explanation of the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 9. Favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 120 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to go to item 4, House Bill number 213. Call it up and make the usual motion.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered and gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to yield to the gentleman from Lafayette.
Gentleman from Lafayette.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, this is House Bill 213. It contains minor technical revisions requested by the Federal General Service Administration to allow the DFA to continue to access surplus items and also to cover their expenses. It limits the amount that they can charge for fees to 4 months of operating expenses, and this shall meet those expenses shall be incurred to meet the acquiring, transporting, warehousing, and distribution of property to eligible applicants, whether it be cities or municipalities across the state. That's my explanation of the bill.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 213. You favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 118 yeas, 0 nays, bill passes. Next item.
Public Property yields the floor for now.
Thank you, sir. County Affairs. Item 5.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to go to House Bill item number 5 on today's general calendar, House Bill 104. Call it up, make the usual motion.
The gentleman calls the bill up, moves that the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you. This bill relates to Hancock County only. It allows the prosecuting attorney to be paid up to 75% of the amount of the county court judge's salary. There's been an increase in caseloads and an increase in duty, and additional court was established, and so that's the reason for this request.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 104. You favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 117 yeas and 1 nay, bill passes. Next item.
I'd like to go to item number 6, House Bill 320. Call it up, make the usual motion.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
House Bill 320 relates to perpetual care cemeteries that are not being properly maintained. It allows municipalities or counties to go onto that harmful properties up, which are harmful to the health and welfare of the community. It also allows the county or municipality to draw off of the trust after making application with the Secretary of State's office to draw off of those cemetery trust funds that are held for reimbursement. If there's no question, I move final adoption.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 320. You favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Bill passes. Next item, drug policy.
I'd like to go to item 7, House Bill 479, and make the usual motion.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. You have a committee substitute.
I move we consider the committee sub in lieu of the original bill.
Gentleman moves committee substitute be adopted for consideration in lieu of the original bill. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Ladies and gentlemen of the House, this bill deals with pseudoephedrine and ephedrine, authorizes sales and purchase of certain products containing without a prescription. If you'll remember, about 10 years ago, when I was in the legislature the first time, we were trying to deal with a meth problem, and we made pseudoephedrine prescription only. We in Oregon were the only 2 states in the union to do that. 48 other states have figured out how to let people have this decongestant without having a prescription. And what this bill would do is to keep it as a controlled substance, but allow a person over 18 to buy a limited amount of the product before having to get a prescription. Domestic meth labs are declining, There is a national precursor exchange log that is used in 37 states. What would happen when you went to the pharmacy to get pseudoephedrine? You would give them your driver's license. They would run it through this NPLEX system that's used in 37 states, as I said, and it would only allow you to buy 3.6 grams in a day or 7.2 grams in a month. We put a 2-year repealer on this just to see how it does, and we can come back and look at it. But I think this is a common sense way for us to let people have access to pseudoephedrine and ephedrine, and that's my explanation of the bill.
Questions on the bill? Jump from Jackson, Mr. Busby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentlemen, will you yield?
I certainly do.
You mentioned tracking these purchases through the NFLEX system.
Yes, sir.
It would be very relevant, I think, if we knew if our neighboring states are participating in that NFLEX system.
As I said, 37 states are using the system. The NPLEX law is being used in every neighboring state that we have.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay?
Jump from Jones, Mr. Scoggin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Do you yield?
I do.
On this NCLEX system, can you tell me who will have access to that? Like, for example, if you go to the drugstore and you buy your 7 point whatever amount per month, and then you go to the doctor's office and you want to get more, is the provider going to have access to that information to know that you've already exceeded that amount, or they're not going to have access to it?
Gentlemen, this is how much you can get without a prescription. So if you go to the doctor to get a prescription, you can be prescribed more of this by a doctor, but without a prescription, you're only able to buy 3.6 grams in a day or 7.2 grams in a month.
And I'm sorry I don't know this, but do you have any idea how many pills?
I do. It's dependent upon the strength of the pill.
Right.
And I have a little chart here that shows you Claritin D, 115 count box of a 24-hour allergy medicine. 15 pills at 240 milligrams would equal 3.6 grams. That's Claritin D.
How many did you say?
15 count box. With a leave, that's 120 milligrams. You get 3 10 count boxes, so you could get 30 pills. Or Advil allergy sinus, 6 20 count boxes of a 4 to 6 hour cold medicine, because it has 30 milligrams in it, so you can get more of it. But it's the same strength, just different dosages and different medicines.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gentleman from Neshoba, Mr. Bounds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentlemen, you yield, Mr. Chairman?
I do.
Hey, let me ask you this. So I know that we really tightened up on this several years ago because of the methamphetamine problems and things like that. Where's our law enforcement community stand on this?
I have spoken to the Director of Public Safety, and he is for the bill. He says the position of the Department of Public Safety is they are not opposed to it. I've talked to my sheriff. He is not opposed to it. So the Sheriff's Association, I believe, is not opposed to it. Nobody's coming out and saying we're for it, but they're not opposed to it.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes, sir. No other questions. I move final passage.
I don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 479. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Closed machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 118 yeas and 1 nay, the bill passes. Next item.
I'd like to go to item number 8, House Bill 1034, and make the usual motion.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered engrossed read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
This is a bill that the Department of Health has asked us to pass. It is the Uniform Controlled Substances Act. Each year, the Department of Health wants to get our state law in compliance with federal law. There are 4 drugs that need to be changed. One is just an update to its new chemical name, and the other 3 are schedule changes. And basically, we're just conforming state law to federal law. That's my explanation of the bill. Happy to yield for questions. As long as I don't have to pronounce these drugs.
Questions on the bill? Gentleman from Tallahatchie, Mr. Reynolds.
Gentlemen, will the bill need to be updated in view of the initiative that was passed by the voters in the process?
Well, this bill deals with, it could possibly, but as of right now, it does not.
All right, don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 1034. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 117 yeas and 2 nays, the bill passes.
Drug policy yields the floor.
Next item, Judd B.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would call up item number 9, House Bill number 350. Ask that you recognize the gentleman from Covington.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves that the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 350 is the same bill that we passed last year. This provides for those who have been convicted of a felony to have their gun rights restored. Current law allows you to do that if you've been convicted of a crime in Mississippi. This would expand it for those who've been convicted of federal crimes or for crimes in other states. And that is an explanation of the bill.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 350. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 106 yeas and 8 nays, bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Call up the next item, item 10, House Bill number 122. Call up the committee sub on that and ask that you recognize the gentleman from Pearl River.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves that the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman moves committee substitute be adopted for consideration in lieu of the original bill. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman from Pearl River is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have an amendment at the proper time also.
You're recognized for an amendment.
Okay, this amendment, so this bill overall expands the number of expungements an individual can receive. This amendment simply clarifies the moment that the time frame begins to run in which that individual can receive the expungement. We're changing it from the date of conviction to the date in which the petitioner completes all terms and conditions of his sentence. That's the explanation of the amendment.
Questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying, excuse me, gentleman from Forest, do you have a question on the amendment? Punch that blue button, gentlemen. There you go.
You yield?
Yes, sir.
I just have one question. In that 3 felony expungements, is that still going to be at the discretion of the judge?
Yes, sir. I was going to get to that when I explained the whole bill, but yes, sir.
Okay,
all at the judge's discretion.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see any further questions on the amendment. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Amendment is adopted. Anything further on the bill?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. So House Bill 122 provides that an individual may receive up to 2 felony expungements if 10 years have passed since the particular individual has completed all terms and conditions of his sentence, and it provides that he or she may receive up to 3 felony expungements by the judge if 15 years have passed since they've completed all terms and conditions of that sentence. The same exclusions apply that's in current law. You can't, expunge a violent crime or any of that stuff. For the 3 expungements, we exclude an individual from getting an expungement if he or she has been convicted under a habitual offender statute. But like the gentleman from Forest said earlier, this is all at the discretion of the trial court. The petitioner would be required to file a petition, serve the district attorney. The district attorney gets the notice. If the DA requires or wants a hearing, then it puts on the petitioner to go to court and prove his case. He has to prove to the judge that he has been rehabilitated, or she, excuse me, that he or she has been rehabilitated and is now a good and functioning member of our society. But like I said, it's up to the discretion of the trial court. The court may deny the petition if enough law enforcement or if the state puts on a case saying they disagree. Or the judge may grant the petition if he sees that this individual has been living a fruitful life, paying his taxes, going to church and being a good man or woman. So last session, we passed a bill similar to this without the times in there, without the 10 or 15-year time frame. The governor vetoed that. This bill hopefully will address some of those issues that the governor expressed in his veto message, and hopefully we can get to this to his desk and he can agree to it. I'll yield for any questions, Mr. Speaker.
Questions, gentleman from DeSoto, Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
I heard you say violent crimes, but are sex crimes involved in this? Would they be eligible for expungement?
No, sir.
No, we're positive.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Gentleman from Octavia Hall, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentlemen, will you yield?
Yes, sir.
I heard you state what will happen in the 10th year and the 15th year.
Yes, sir.
But not in the first 5.
So the first 5 is covered under current law.
It's covered, okay.
Yes, sir. So right now you can get one felony expungement if 5 years have passed since the time you've completed all terms and conditions of your sentence.
So essentially you'll be eligible for expungement, one expungement every 5 years. Is that?
No, sir.
5 the first year to the 10th year?
Well, I guess you could say that, but your time starts running over and over again. Like every time you get a sentence, your time under this statute that it has to start running only begins once you've completed your terms and conditions of the sentence. So if you get convicted in 2010 of a drug charge, you get 5 years probation. You do not get to start counting your 10 or 15 years until you've finished that 5 years of probation, you've paid off all your fines and fees. So are you asking if you get another charge after your expungement, can you get that one expunged after 5 years?
That's correct. That's what I'm asking.
I don't think the time's going to match up right because the way it doesn't start the count over. So the state and the district attorneys keep a confidential record of all of their expungements. So just because that first one has disappeared doesn't mean it knocks you back down to expungement 1. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? Or
I need a little more clarification. Okay,
ask your question again. Let me see if.
So the question is, so after the first 5 years, and I've received one, I'm the person looking for the expungement.
Mm-hmm.
After the first one, if I commit another crime,
right?
After the next 5 years, after I pay fines, fees, and all parole and all that stuff, I'm eligible for another expungement.
In 10 years.
In 10 years.
In 10 years. Not 5. You've had your one for 5. If you get it again, you have to wait 10 years after you've completed for the next one.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Gentleman from Holmes, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Jim, let me ask you a question. When it says one felony, sometimes a person is charged, they're convicted, but they're convicted for more than one crime, but it comes from the same operative facts. Now, in this bill, will that person be able to expunge all of those convictions or just one of them?
That's law now, and it carries over. Common nucleus of operative facts counts as one, yes,
so
sir.
it would also apply for the additions that we're adding as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Jim from Marshall, Mr. Kincaid.
Question?
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, I support the expungement process. And understanding the expungement process is in place to give that individual that second opportunity, to get them a chance to get back on track.
Right.
What you're suggesting to us today is they're going to say, look at expungement as a do-over, as you have multiple opportunities. I don't believe that was the idea behind expungement to start with. Expungement is there for an individual to get his life back on track, and for him to pay his past sins. So the ability of what you're saying is that we can commit a crime and then another one and have it expunged again and then expunged again. I'm sorry, gentlemen, I think that's well too far.
Yes, sir.
Jim from Humphreys, Mr. Strawder. I don't see him. Oh, he jumped from Washington at that desk. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentlemen,
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, couldn't you view, would you not agree with me that this could be viewed as an incentive to help curtail some of the recidivism that is taking place in this state?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Go on, no, you go ahead.
This targets those people who went through a spate in their life where, they made a lot of wrong decisions. Somebody in their 20s who got a drug conviction at 22, 24, 27, and now they're 50 and they go to church and they want a job and they want their kids to not see that they have this mark on them. This shows that we really do have a forgiving spirit here and that people really can be rehabilitated and that people really can turn the leaf and prove to society, and we should not continue to punish them for those mistakes.
Gentlemen, do you happen to know what the rate of recidivism is in this state?
Not off the top of my head, do you?
It's probably 3 out of every 5 people actually end up falling through the cracks because they can't be gainfully employed because of these felonies being on their record.
Yes, sir.
So this would be an opportunity. Would you not see this also as a employment opportunity, a piece of legislation as well?
Yes, sir.
Could we probably help in some communities lessen the double-digit unemployment rate by doing some of this stuff as well?
Probably, yes, sir.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
And I also want to stress to the body that, again, that this is discretionary. This is not a shall be expunged. All right, I move for final passage.
I don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 122. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 80 yeas, 39 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If we could go to item 11, House Bill number 119, and call it up and make the usual motions.
Gentleman calls bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered engrossed, read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Harper Grace's law is what we're dealing with here today. This extends the repealer to 2024. We have already voted on this. If you'll remember, a few years back, we allowed this particular product, CBD oil, to be used for seizures, things like that. It's named after a child that had some major seizures, and this CBD oil helped that child. We're basically trying to keeping an eye on this, but we're pushing this out to 2024 to allow the people that need this, these children that need this, and that is my explanation of the bill. I'll answer any questions if there are any.
Lady from Lincoln, Ms. Curry.
Just one quick question. Did this little girl ever get her medicine?
The last time I talked to a family that knew the family, they were still having trouble getting the stuff.
Lady from Pearl River, Ms. Wilkes.
Gentlemen, will you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Won't the marijuana that the citizens just passed, wasn't that the purpose of this? So won't that take care of this?
I hope it will in the future, but for the time being, we're still going to have to deal with it for right now. We don't have really a mechanism for what happened over the vote last year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Jim from Harrison, Mr. Felcher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You yield?
Yes, sir.
I just have a question. Has it been explored if the person that the bill is named after can't get the medication? Is there not some kind of amendment or correction that can be made to allow for that?
I think part of the problem, it's tied up in federal as well. There's so many dynamics that are at play here. Other states, I think they're able to get, I hate to say it like this, but I think they've been able to get it at other states. So I think she's being taken care of, but the reality is that it shouldn't be this hard. But you are correct in your, if I follow where you're going, you are correct.
All right, I don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 119. You favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 120 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If we could go to item number 12, House Bill 615, and call it up and make the usual motion.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered engrossed, read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we've actually passed this out last year, and this is the DUI suspension clarify as to how many days that this license is supposed to be suspended. We're basically stating, we're not changing the law, it's already 120 days, but we're basically stating that the time is supposed to start when the judge says it is. There's no, every other order that I ever do in front of a court, it starts when the judge says it starts, not when some administrative agency says it starts, when the judge says it starts. All we're doing is putting into state law the way it should be. When a judge says something's supposed to start, for suspension of driver's license, it starts at that time. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this may be a moving target, and we may have to develop with this a bit more, and I may be back in front of you trying to explain that. But right.
Explain to them that there's a lot of people that have DUI stuff, and we're keeping it open.
Also, this does have a reverse repeater. We probably, then I know that a lot of you have had some issues with the DUIs. We may end up coming back and putting a lot of that language in this bill so that we can get this straightened out. That is my explanation. Give up. Did I hear uncle?
Any questions on the amendment?
Really, really hard.
I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Anything further on the bill?
No, sir.
Questions on the bill? Gentleman from Itawamba, Mr. Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You yield?
Yes, sir.
In my area up there, we've had some people who have had like 6, 7, or 8 DUIs and are still driving. How do we get by and get that cut out?
Gentlemen, I would submit to you that they're not driving on a valid driver's license. What you're talking about is probably somebody that's out here that has a suspended driver's license, and they just continue driving. And honestly, I've represented people that have done this.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here is the legal mechanism for when someone gets a DUI, that we actually have a certainty of when they're going to be able to get their driver's license back. I think what you're referring to is how do we prevent people from continuing to drive on a suspended driver's license. And I hate to say it, but some of these people just need to be put in jail for a few days and see if that straightens their mindset out on this. That's going to be kind of up to our justice court judges and our city court judges to be able to take care of that. But the reality is, your question is how do we make people behave? Your guess is as good as mine on that one.
Well, I know one guy had an accident and killed some folks, and
Yes,
I think
sir.
it was after his 8th DUI. Is there not any kind of way to make sure he stays off the road? I mean, you know, like, is after so many, do you not get a prison sentence or something?
Oh, you do get a prison sentence. If he's had 8 DUIs, he's well over the amount that for felony. So he should have already been in jail.
Okay. They said there were some technicalities they were letting them out on it. I didn't really understand it, so just thought I'd ask the question here.
Thank you for your question, and it is a good and valid question.
I don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 615. In favor of the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 115 yeas, 0 nays, bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll call up the next House Bill 70, and I'll call it up, make the usual motion, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman call the bill up, move the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, there's an amendment on that, and I ask that amendment be called up.
You're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the amendment is essentially the bill, but basically what we're doing, some of you are familiar with this. This is an Autopsy Confidentiality Act that we're limiting that these autopsies that are out there, that they can be disseminated, distributed right now at free will. Some of you may be familiar with the podcast Culpable and also some other 48-hour stories. This addresses some of those issues. Apparently, an autopsy can get out on a website, on the internet, really without any type of penalty. So we're going to put some penalties in that. We're going to keep the autopsies confidential with the exceptions of they can be used for the purposes of teaching at UMC, for example, or teaching at somewhere like that, or they could be used for law enforcement to try to help them in diagnosing a case or something like that. Those exceptions are built into the amendment and the bill, and we also are asking for criminal penalties and also some civil damages if these are distributed or dispersed going forward without the consent of the parents. Basically, we want these autopsies to be confidential, and we don't want victims of family of victims to see these autopsies on the internet, on some internet website or something in the dark web, or so to speak, to have them out there for all eternity. So we're going to keep them confidential. Mr. Speaker, that's an explanation of the amendment.
Questions on the amendment? Gentleman from Lauderdale, Mr. Calvert.
I have an amendment, Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment at the proper time, please.
Okay. Any questions on this amendment? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam. Excuse me. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The amendment carries. Gentleman from Lauderdale has an amendment. Incidentally, let me inform the membership. Many of you are coming down here with amendments and you're trying to throw it over that glass or slip it around the side. There is a space under the glass that you can slide it under, ladies and gentlemen, just like you do when you deposit your big checks. So at the bank. So there's a spot under the glass here when you bring your amendment. You recognize, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, this amendment simply changes this act to Christian's law after the late Christian Andracchio from Lauderdale County. That's the explanation of the amendment.
Questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, excuse me, Chairman supports the amendment. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Anything further on the bill?
Final passage, Mr. Speaker.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 118 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill, I would ask that we pass that one and it retain its place on the calendar.
Any objection? Hearing none, we will do that.
Mr. Speaker, I call up House Bill number 15, House Bill number 287.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. You got a committee sub. Gentlemen, you wish to adopt it.
Mr. Speaker, ultimately, I want to lay this on the table, subject to call.
All right, motion is to lay it on table, subject to call. All in favor say aye, opposed nay, ayes have it. Next item. Corrections.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Call up item 16, House Bill 464.
Chairman calls the bill up, moves that the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read, the third time placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. Jim, recognized.
Yes, this comes from the Corrections Department, wants to change the notification time for release from 15 days to up to 15 days. And also, this also provides for the per diem to be provided to the parole board for travel to and from the parole board for activities while they're during the course of their responsibilities. That's the explanation of the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 464. You favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 120 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to pass 17 and ask that it retain its place on the current calendar.
Any objection? Hearing none, we will do that. Next item.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Number 18 is House Bill 557. What that does is...
Just call it up, gentlemen.
Call up...
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read, the third time placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill adds to the non-adjudication code section the ability of the court to place someone in non-adjudication in a workforce training program at a community college or workforce development center or diversion program administered by a company as or agency as designated by the court. This only applies to non-violent offenders, not violent offenders. Mr. Speaker, that's an explanation of the bill.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 557. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 117 yeas and 1 nay, the bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 19 is House Bill 747, and I call up the bill with the usual motions, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman calls the bill up, moves that the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read, the third time placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to recognize the gentleman from Rankin County to explain the bill to the membership.
Gentleman from Rankin, recognized to present the bill.
No, we're going to do the amendment on the motion. Just go and do the bill.
Okay.
You already got it? You have the amendment?
That's the amendment to the period.
We can just do it when we do the other.
Okay.
We're going to do 2 amendments.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 747 it deals with the Sheriff's Department, and it comes from my Sheriff's Department, but it is beneficial to all Sheriff's Department and especially the regional jails. It's something they've asked for. It will give them the ability to work with courts and to do rehabilitation on people that are in the jails, that may be trustees or whatever, that's held over into the jails, and to be able to get them training and whatever else they would need to make them a better citizen when they come back out. And that's the bottom line of what it does. That's my explanation. Questions?
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Oh, is that an amendment?
Thank you.
Do you have an amendment? Madam Clerk says you got an amendment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We have an amendment, the repealer.
It adds a repealer.
Yeah.
Questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Anything further on the bill?
That's all.
Questions on the bill?
Move to final passage.
I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 747. You favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Close the machine, Madam Clerk, by a vote of 120 yeas and 0 nays. The bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have item number 20, House Bill 928. Have the usual motions and appropriate time asked that the committee sub be adopted.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves that the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The gentleman moves committee substitute be adopted for consideration in lieu of the original bill. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have an amendment.
You're recognized for your amendment.
The amendment, what it does is basically takes out the position of Chief of Staff and replaces that with an executive deputy commissioner to be selected from the existing deputy commissioners, and the salary shall not exceed that of the deputy commissioners. That's the amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The bill brings forward basically all the code sections has a repealer in it for some work that we need to do after we get with the Senate. But it brings all the commissioners, the corrections, code sections pertaining to the commissioner's office, and that is explanation of the bill.
Questions on the bill? There's one. Jim from Hines, Mr. Brown.
This particular bill.
I yield.
Thank you, sir. Sorry about that.
That's all right, no problem.
It seems to give the Commissioner of Corrections quite a bit of latitude to change a lot of existing rules or laws or the processes that he gets to follow and all that. Is this kind of like a carte blanche for him to change the statutory setup?
No, sir.
That the Corrections Department comes under?
No, sir. Other than the change that I just referenced in the amendment, there's no change to any existing law other than bringing the
policies?
Excuse me?
Policies?
Nothing whatsoever. There will be some changes I'll bring to the floor once we get with the Senate, kind of see where they're headed on it. But right now, there are no changes to existing law in this bill.
Thank you.
Good.
Don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 928. In favor of the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close machine, Madam Clerk, by a vote of 116 yeas, 117 yeas, 0 nays. The bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 21, House Bill 929, I ask that we pass it, retain its place on the calendar.
Any objection? All right, next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next item, 22 is 1174. Call the bill up with the usual motions.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves that the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Your Honor, I recognize the lady from Lincoln to explain the bill to the membership.
Thank you. Lady from Lincoln.
Lincoln, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The chairman asked me to bring forth this bill because, as many of you know, I love hospice and home care and care of patients. And the commissioner has brought forth this idea that he did in Angola for 20 years and said that it worked very well, and that is to provide hospice care to inmates that are dying. Of course, there is compassionate release, and we understand all that, but there's a lot of times that an inmate may have nowhere to go. Their family's done with them, or they're passed away, or whatever the circumstances are, but we still, and they still deserve to have compassionate care at the end of life. So just so you'll know, this is not a new hospice license. They don't bill Medicaid, Medicare, and private insurance. This is done within the medical system with the medical people that are already set up. But another thing that it does, and what he said was that inmates actually become the caregivers, and they he said it's a beautiful thing and they get a lot out of it, and that it just is something that you should see, but they care for one another. I don't see a downside to this at all, and that's my explanation of the bill, and I will be glad to take any questions.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. The question occurs on House Bill 1174. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 116 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item. Accountability.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to call up HB 136.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered engrossed read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
This bill requires anyone handling public funds to have a $25,000 bond. It's come to our attention that there are people inside local governments that handle a lot of money, and we think a minimum bond like $25,000 would probably cover that. So this is a bill we passed last year, and I believe it would be, I believe it got killed in the Senate, so we're trying it again. Any question?
Questions on the bill? Gentleman from Hines, Mr. Washington. Excuse me, Gentleman from Washington, Mr.
I was wondering when you was going to do that this year, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman Yield.
Yes, sir.
In some instances, some people who work as employees probably have had a divorce or had a bad set of circumstances, so they might not have the best credit rating.
Yes.
And sometimes being bonded is based upon your credit worthiness.
Yes.
And so, you know, a woman who had to, you know, rearrange her life with her husband and stuff, is there a provision in this piece of legislation that will speak to those people who have some issue in their life circumstances? That you know, some bonding companies, if your credit is poor, they won't give you a bond. So have you thought about putting a provision in there for that?
No, sir, we haven't. This is just something that, you know, we're trying to protect the people of the county, and I think it would be up to the people who oversee this person to make sure they have the ability to do what they're asked to do.
So I can be a good employee, right, and my spouse could have been strung out on drugs and sold everything from up under me. I hadn't done anything, but because I'm tied to my spouse, I'm affected. My credit is affected. I'm a great employee. I ain't never missed a day of work with her. This could adversely impact them. So I'm asking if you would look at that, because insurance companies do what they want to do. Bonding companies do what they want to do. But if we put something in place that could hamper a good employee, we have actually affected the citizens of that county or that community. So you need to think about that.
Yes, sir.
Jim from Harrison, Mr. Haney.
Gentleman Yield.
Yes, sir.
I might have missed, I know it's a short bill, but who pays for this? Is the county or the city? Who pays for this bond?
Yes, the county or the city.
Okay, thank you.
Jim from Rankin, Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me what the average loss to counties and cities are? Did the state auditor's office give you that amount? I mean, I see significantly higher amounts than 25,000 all the time. Sometimes up into the $100,000.
A lot of people are already covered by bonds. This was just one that was not in the system already.
So this just covers everybody else who's not already specifically covered by a bond, who's dealing with money.
That's right. That they don't handle a large amount. The people who handle a large amount of money already have bonds.
Okay, well, so from what I see, from what I've personally seen in some of these instances, the bonds are way too low to cover what's being taken. And there's some significant losses going to these cities and counties that, and yes, I mean, I think this is a start, but that's all it is.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 136. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Everyone voted. Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 118 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
Next is House Bill 219. We'd like to call it up.
Chairman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended, bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
This is a bill that's come up as things move along in our society today. We find more and more people getting alarm systems. And one of the problems that you have with it is a door can get a little bit loose and it'll set off a false alarm. This bill just prohibits local entities from fining the security companies and the people who own the alarm from a false alarm, because it happens. It's no one's fault, but we have people out there patrolling anyway, and they should be fairly close to the area, so it shouldn't take much time to go and determine it's a false alarm. So this bill takes that away.
Questions? Lady from Pearl River, Ms. Wilk.
Gentlemen, will you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a limit on the number of responses from false responses on a residence or business before they can fine them? Like if, say there is a short or something, it's not repaired or fixed and goes off continually, is there a limit on how many times they can respond without being charged?
No, there's not, but there is something in this bill that says it has to be properly maintained and put in correctly.
Thank you, sir.
Don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 219. You favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 107 yeas, 11 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
I'd like to call up House Bill 274.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
This bill was brought to us by a member from the coast, where when a catastrophe happens, hurricane, and in the north we could use tornadoes, if a law enforcement person is out in the area, we want to give him the ability to use his uniform, his car, his equipment in disaster relief. If it is going to be covered by the county, it needs to be spread upon the books of the supervisors.
I'm sorry, you done?
To make sure it's completely liable, the liability is covered.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 274. You favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed to vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 120 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
I'd like to call up House Bill 357, and I'd like for the representative from DeSoto County to explain.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Gentleman from DeSoto is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill number 357 simply increases the bond requirement for county purchasing clerks from $75,000 to $100,000. That's an explanation of the bill.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 357. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 115 yeas and 1 nay, the bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to go to item number 27, House Bill 358. Call it up, make the usual motions.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill number 358 does similar to the previous bill. It increases the bonding requirement for school board purchasing agents from $50,000 to $100,000. That's an explanation of the bill.
Questions on the bill? Gentleman from Scott, Mr. Miles.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Who's paying for these bonds again?
Well, actually, the school board bond is going to come from the school district. It's required to come out of their maintenance fund.
Would you consider this a tax increase that you're voting for?
It is an increase of expense to the taxpayers to purchase this bond.
Are you going to vote on this?
I have not decided.
Sir?
I am not sure. I believe
You voted for the last one, though, didn't you?
it adds some protection for the citizens, but it is at a cost.
Oh, I'm not, I think it's great protection for the citizens. I was just asking, but you did vote for the last bill. And a lot of times you don't vote for these local and private bills that are when our counties and cities are trying to get.
Well, this is not exactly a tax increase. This is trying to decide whether the offset of extra expense is of value to protect the citizens.
But that's pushed down, though, to the taxpayer on the local level. Right?
It is absolutely, and this is taxpayers are going to pay.
It's all the same. But thank you for voting for this and voting for this tax increase.
Thank you. Move final
I
pass.
don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 358. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Everyone voted. Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 109 yeas, 7 nays, the bill passes. Anything further?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. With unanimous consent, I have one more item on the calendar, and I would like to jump ahead to item 44, House Bill 609, with unanimous consent.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, we will do that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you. House Bill 609, we passed this last year. It came to me from Delta State University, Department of Commercial Aviation. Their new department chair, who is a aviation graduate from Delta State, he's retiring from Delta Airlines. He has discovered that with the purchasing requirements for aircraft, he's not allowed or doesn't have the ability to buy used aircraft. The reason for that is once they, with the purchasing requirements, it takes so long to get the requirements through the process that a used aircraft is gone. He's tried to bid on a couple of them, but they're gone quickly. What this bill allows him to do is to set up purchasing requirements outside of the normal purchasing requirements. Last year, we've talked to DFA, we talked to IHL, and I've talked to Delta State University administration. They're all okay with this change in procedure. The new procedure will have to be developed ahead of time. It will have to go through the approval of the university board and IHL. So we're making sure that there's no way that someone can just buy airplanes from their brother-in-law. But this will allow him to buy the used aircraft. He has right now $500,000 that he has in the bank that he wants to spend on new airplanes. He can buy 2 new trainer aircraft, or he can buy 5 used ones. So this is going to allow him to use his money more efficiently, and that is an explanation of the bill.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any.
Move final passage.
Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 609. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay.
Thank you.
Everyone voted. Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 114 yeas and 3 nays, the bill passes. We will return now back to item number 28.
Yes, sir. I'd like to call up House Bill 453.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
This is a bill that was asked for by the sheriff's departments and the police departments. This allows an officer who is in a part-time or full-time position working on a volunteer basis to a church or a community club or some social event during his off-duty hours to use his equipment and his car in order to be there and have a presence. The sheriff's requested it because a lot of his church, people went to church and the churches needed something to help them out. They may be on the church protection team, or they But having that car sitting outside, just, they felt like it was a little bit more protection. They're asking for it just, and one of the things they have to do on this is they have to spread this upon the minutes of the board meeting before anything like this happens. They have to do it on a officer by officer situation. They don't do it across the board in the whole department. All of this is in place to make sure everything is taken well. The liabilities will be assumed by the department if everything is carried out properly. The bill also at the end of it has an amendment to Section 45-9-131, and it allows an officer to be given his gun at the time that he is retired, or at the widow or widower could have the weapon in case of a death. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions on the bill? Gentleman from Washington, Mr. Hine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, I have a question. Who is responsible for the fuel costs of the vehicle being transported from point A to point B if this officer is off duty? Is that the burden of the taxpayers of that community, or is the church paying the cost of that travel expense?
Like I say, it's different things. I mean, but it's all inside. They cannot go outside their jurisdiction, so it will all be inside the jurisdiction, and it will be covered by the county.
Okay, so if this officer is off duty, and if that car was parked at the sheriff's office, it would not be moving. So what happens if this particular officer is driving 10, 12 miles one way? Who picks up the cost of that fuel? Have you thought about that at all?
Well, like I say, the sheriff said they would cover the cost and the liability.
So now citizens who do not attend that church is responsible for paying the cost of that church's security. That's what you're saying. Well, if the sheriff is going to pick up the cost, isn't that an expense that the citizens have to pick up?
That's what the sheriffs and the police department are asking for. It's not saying it will be just one church. All their officers, most of their officers go to church. This was one of the things that was developed back when the people began to have churches that developed the protection teams. And they've been asking for this ever since.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just asking, it should like the expense of that, if that officer is volunteering his or her time to provide security, don't you think that the cost of the fuel at $2.30, 40, 50 cents a gallon shouldn't be placed on other taxpayers because of this particular officer working at that particular church or any particular church? I'm just asking, because it seems that somebody's picking up the tab for this, and it's not the church that's being protected.
Most of the people who have these cars don't take them back to the sheriff's department. They have them at home.
Okay, correctly, and it is parked. It is not being driven from point A to point B. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Right.
I don't disagree with what you're trying to do, but it seems like it is a cost being placed on the budget of those sheriff's departments. And if you have a department that is strapped for cash, it's going to end up being a problem later on, because some supervisor is going to have a burr in his saddle about the amount of money the sheriff is spending. So I'm just asking, has there been any thought to that?
Well, like I say, we did what the sheriffs asked us to do.
So now the sheriff can spend money for an entity. So my sheriff can be spending money to protect my church, and folk who don't go to church gonna have to pick up the tab.
It'd be a minimal amount, but yes, you're right.
Okay.
You're
so right. It's 52 weeks in a year, is that correct?
That's right.
So that's 52 Sundays.
That's right.
So if somebody's going 20 miles at $2.50 a gallon, how much money is that?
It's according to what your mileage is.
Okay. I just want you to think about how that could balance, and you got 10 or 12 sheriff deputies doing that. You see the cost, how it could easily escalate, end up being a burden on a struggling community?
Right, I understand.
Okay.
Gentleman from Choctaw, Mr. Hood. Passes. Gentleman from Lauderdale, Mr. Young.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the gentleman, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I promise to be very friendly today. And I might have missed this in your delivery. Who's responsible for the liability once that vehicle is not being used for agency or department use and for personal or private use?
Well, this is one of the things I should have told Representative from Washington. This is still being spread across the minutes of the board that has to authorize this, so they will be informed, and they have accepted the liability. They will have to accept it. If the board says no, we're not going to accept the liability, the sheriffs ask that they accept the liability, so it will be upon the department that has the vehicle and the officer.
My follow-up question to that is, being that the department agency is going to accept the liability, again, that puts an additional cost upon that agency or division?
Yes, it would, but they will have to agree to it, and they'll have to explain their cost to the board in order to make this function as it should. So they will have to accept it, and the county would have to accept it. I mean, it'd have to go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Jim Smith, Mr. Tullis.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
It's kind of a follow-up of the previous questionnaire. My question is, the officer is volunteering for a private function to provide security or whatever other function there is. And he's wearing his, and this bill allows him to wear his uniform, use a county or municipal vehicle, and his issued firearm.
Yes.
And if the officer does something in a negligent or intentional manner under this bill, the officer who actually volunteered, he has no personal liability. Is that correct? For any actions that he does?
That's correct.
So it would fall under the Tort Claims Act, where you have to go through the notice requirements, and it gives basically the officer immunity for performing duties at a private function for which he volunteered at, correct?
Correct.
And the county also has some immunity for actions done by its officers.
Yes.
So I guess my question is, so we're allowing the counties to perform duties at a private function, and the county is paying for the liability insurance. The officer has no liability whatsoever for actions that he did for which he volunteered for. So aren't we basically, the private function, the people putting on the private function, aren't we basically allowing them immunity for actions of somebody that they hired or that volunteered that does a bad act, and nobody has any responsibility?
The sheriffs are aware of their employees. And you know, this has to be, like I say, it has to be okayed by the sheriff and across the minutes of the board for the county or the municipality. They haven't said that they will accept this because, you know, they want their people out in places like this. They want them out where their car can be shown, because it does make people think about doing something they shouldn't do.
Right, and I understand that, but I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, if I ask a sheriff's deputy to come to my party and to provide some security or perform some function, and he shows up in his uniform, he has his sidearm, has a sheriff's deputy's vehicle, and it's spread on the minutes where this individual will perform these services. I, as the individual who puts this function on, now if this officer does something, I have no liability. So we're basically giving protections to people that put on functions and giving them immunity as well as the officer that did the act. And we still get back to the county, yeah, they're accepting it, but they still have immunity. And you still have to show certain things in order for the county to have some liability.
These are community functions. They're not personal functions.
Give me 1 second. And I apologize. I read something in the bill that it's got for a church, a community club, a social event, which would be a private function.
In the way that we feel like the bill is rendered, it's a community social function.
Okay. So as a private individual, if I ask an officer or deputy or the city police officer to come perform a function, volunteer services at my place, on my land, you're telling me this bill does not cover that?
Right. On line 41, it says it must promote public interest. Line 41.
Well, I'm going back up to line 23 and 24 for a church, and I understand it. I understand the spirit of the bill. My question is when you talk about a community club or social event, wouldn't you agree with me that's a little ambiguous as to what it's actually?
Well, it could be, but if this thing is spread upon the minutes of the board, it's going to be pretty well explained there. But our intent in this is for it to be a public function. Like I mentioned on line 44, it does say it has to be a public interest.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Jim from Hines, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman, you yield.
Yes.
Kind of piggybacking off a couple of questions from the gentleman from Raleigh and Meridian.
Could I ask you to remove your mask?
Is there a opportunity if there is an officer who is involved in an automobile accident on the way to one of these social events, church functions, or what have you? Are they still covered?
From what I understand from the sheriff's department, my sheriff, one of my sheriffs in my district, who has been talking to me about this, along with the people from the Sheriff's Association, they determine that they feel like their man is out there. He's doing the work of the county. So I mean, it may be off duty.
Even while they're off duty?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Gentleman DeSoto, Mr. Eubanks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Gentlemen, wouldn't you agree that the officers are acting in their job scope? And they are protecting tax-paying citizens, which is their job, regardless of whether they're being paid by the county hourly or on salary to do it or not. They are performing the service that the taxpayers are paying, and the very taxpayers that are paying it, they are performing service to them. Yes. Would you not also agree that anybody that has an issue with the county at a local level deciding to put gas in the tank but still votes for local and privates to give hundreds of thousands of dollars to nonprofits and private organizations should have no problem with the county paying for a little gas to take and protect the citizens that are actually paying taxes for that to happen?
Well, that's true, but to get this thing back on track, I think we just need to realize this is doing a service for the county,
exactly,
or the municipality. It's got to be spread across the minutes of the board that's associated with it, whether it be a municipal board or whether it be a county board. This has to be carried out on a case-by-case basis. It's not like the sheriff says, all right, you guys go out and protect all the churches on Sunday. That's not going to happen. It's got to be done on a case-by-case basis.
Exactly.
In the minutes.
Exactly.
Gentleman from Tallahatchie, Mr. Reynolds.
Gentlemen, I'm not opposed to what you're doing. What I am concerned about, counties have to have liability insurance.
Yes.
And then they have reinsurance, the names in Lloyd's in London, the names, and they don't rush in to cover accident. They don't rush in to cover acts. They will disclaim coverage for activities that are not within the scope of the policy. and then the counties will be out an inordinate amount of money as a result of even defending an action. So, gentlemen, in certain instances, it might be easy if we would approve letting the entity just have an officer to do the function rather than an off-duty, because if you, gentlemen, do you understand, if you have an appearance that you're performing a governmental function, for example, a 1983 action, if you seem to be under cover of state law, they're going to impute it to you anyway. They're going to sue you anyway. So what I'm interested in is some sort of protection that we could have for local governments. And as this thing works through the process, at least, would you work with our insurance providers and the local governments to make sure we're not opening a Pandora's box and going to cost the local governments and taxpayers a gazillion dollars, number one? If you could do that. And secondly, consider maybe tightening the language down in compliance with what our insurance providers say that we need to have, and also to limit liability in regard to federal actions so that we are not inordinately burdened. Because I could see, you know, if you have somebody out that's undercover, that appears to be, they're in the uniform, they've got a vehicle, they appear to be acting at the direction of the officer. Let's say they get off track. The individual is going to say, well, they're acting under color of the law. So therefore, county's liable, therefore every taxpayer's liable, big time problems. So I say if we could just get a handle on it and carefully work this through the process, and please talk with our insurance agents throughout the state and providers. Would you do that?
Yes, I'll refer back to the sheriffs and let them talk to
And the insurance providers need to be contacted too.
Well, I'm going to let them talk to the ones that they personally deal with. That way they'll know. But now, you know, at any time, a county could say, no, we're not going to do this. I mean, this is not forcing people to do this. This just gives us opportunity.
It's not, but if a service is available and they say they do it in X, it does put a certain amount of pressure on them. And I'm for, gentlemen, I'm for people doing everything they can to help people like what you got. But I just want us at the end of the day not to do something that would put a crushing burden on the taxpayer and the local governments.
Yes.
Gentleman Pike, Mr. Porter.
Gentleman, will you yield?
Yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You stated that this was the only time this would come into play was for public interest, correct?
I'm having a little trouble.
It would be for public interest, is that correct?
Yes.
So is public interest defined in this piece of legislation?
No.
So who determines what's public interest?
I would assume the board that says this is okay. I mean, they're the leaders of the county, so or the municipality. I'm more familiar with county, but they would be the leaders of the municipality or the county.
So if I was to ask for a sheriff's deputy at a campaign event, and you were to ask for a sheriff's deputy to be at a nightclub, it would be up to that municipality to decide whether or not it's in the public's interest?
Yes. And it would be a case-by-case basis. It wouldn't be, like, say, spread out where they could do everything at that place that you're talking about, whether it be at a park or whether it be at a nightclub or anything like that. They have to agree to it on a case-by-case basis.
Any further questions? All right, I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 453. You favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk, by a vote of 81 yeas and 32 nays. Bill passes. Next item.
We're going to skip item 29, House Bill 559, 95.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, you skipping number 29?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I want to hold the same place on the.
Any objection? There's an objection. It will be bumped to the bottom of the calendar.
I'd like to call up item number 30, House Bill 718. And
Chairman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. You recognize.
I'd like to recognize the gentleman from DeSoto County to explain.
From which way, from where?
DeSoto County.
DeSoto, gentleman from DeSoto. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you, gentlemen. Y'all got to speak right into that microphone. There's a disruptive group in the back creating a lot of noise, and I can't hear nothing. They didn't even hear me say that. They didn't even hear me say that. Thank you. Gentleman from DeSoto is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 718, this bill basically was, well, let me back up, was brought to us by the gentleman from Hancock. And to me, it's a good bill. This will actually tighten up at the prescribed time that campaign finance reports have to be reported from the counties and the municipalities to the Secretary of State's office, and then they have a time certain to have that posted on the website. So this is about transparency. I believe there were issues with some of the counties and municipalities not reporting these in a timely manner, and that's why we have this bill before us. I'll take any questions, Mr. Speaker.
Questions on the bill. Gentleman from Choctaw, Mr. Hood.
Does gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Are you telling, the counties will give this to the Secretary of State and then they will publish it?
Yes, on the website.
The counties don't have to publish it on a website, though.
Just the Secretary of State.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Gentleman from Hines, Mr. Bell. Passes. All right. I don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 718. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 118 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
I'd like to call up item 31, House Bill 1213.
Chairman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended, bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
This was brought to us from PERS, and what it wants, the State Personnel Board, anytime employees are taken out from under the State Personnel Board, we want reports to come back to PERS and to, or not PERS, PEER, and back to the Speaker and to the Lieutenant Governor, so that we can see what was actually done to those people who were taken out from under the State Personnel Board. And we haven't had that in the past, but we ought to have these reports coming back to us. We need to know how many people got raises. We need to know how many people were laid off. We need to know how many people were hired. Just things that we need to know, and to make sure that the things were accomplished, the reason we gave them the right to come out from under the personnel board.
Questions on the bill. Lady from Lincoln, Ms. Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Are you aware that there is a peer report that was just released on this?
Yes.
Okay. And that it stated that bringing agencies out from under the personnel board did not accomplish anything but higher salaries and problems?
Right. So it's good to get the information back. That's what we're going to try to keep from happening.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
All right, I don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 1213. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 116 yeas and 1 nay, the bill passes. Next item.
I'd like to skip it. It can go to the Hill calendar.
Okay. That brings us to item 33, Public Utilities.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On today's calendar, I'd like to go to item number 35, skip 33 and 34, and ask if they retain their place on the calendar, but do take up House Bill 35. House Bill 74.
Any objection? Hearing none, they will retain their place. We'll go to item number 35, House Bill 74.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You want to call it up?
Yeah, I'd like to call it up, make the usual motion.
Jim calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross, read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, this is very simple. This is just an extension of the repealer on the Emergency Telecommunications Act. This is your E911. 911 services in the county. Doesn't make any changes to the statute, just extends the repealer to 2024, and that's what the bill does.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 74. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Everyone voted. Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 115 yeas and 1 nay, the bill passes. Next item, Marine Resources.
House Bill 1211, I'd like to call that bill up, make the usual motion.
The gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross, read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 1211 will explain and define the administrative procedures for the Department of Marine Resources. You recall last year, we moved regulatory authority to the department. And this is a bill that's got a bunch of cleanup language in it where
Go ahead, gentlemen.
Thank you. Where the word commission was left throughout the bill in several places. This bill will clean that language up and move and change that word to the department or the executive director. And it does explain in sections 2 and 3, it explains and defines the appeals process for any violators who might have received citations. And that is an explanation.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 1211. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Everyone voted. Close machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 120 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
House Bill 594, I'd like to call that bill up, make the usual motions.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves that the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross, read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Short title of this bill says define the ordinary high water mark. What this bill does is several years ago, the department had the authority to write permits for residents to build bulkheads. Somewhere along the way, that authority got moved to the Corps of Engineers, and now residents who own property on the water have to deal with the Corps of Engineers. It takes about a year and a half to get a permit, costs them up to about $500 for that permit, and they normally have to hire consultants to deal with the Corps for them. This will give the authority back to the Department of Marine Resources. It'll help residents do their bulkheads on their waterfront property a whole lot quicker and a whole lot cheaper. And that is an explanation.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 594. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 119 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item, Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to go to item number 38, House Bill 162, and call it up.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves that the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross, read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 162 is a simple repealer bill. We're going to extend the repealer on public contracts for energy efficiency from 21 to 2024.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 162. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 111 yeas and 4 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to call House Bill 632 up, item number 39.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the All Fuels Act that we're going to create. It's a pretty simple bill. All we're doing is saying that the legislature shall determine the energy policy in Mississippi, and it prohibits any political subdivision from banning an energy source. It's starting to take place across the nation. We're just trying to get ahead of it.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 632. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 117 yeas and 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
Yes, sir. I'd like to call up item number 40, House Bill 1037.
Chairman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this will create a sequestration for CO2. It is coming down the pipe that we're going to have to start carbon capturing from utilities, stuff like that. And so what we're going to do is basically be able to turn the CO2 pipeline around and store it in the state of Mississippi. It should create multiple jobs for the area. It's just a new industry. So what this bill does is it DEQ and the permit board are allowing the state oil and gas board to oversee this. The state oil and gas board's been doing this with natural gas and oil for years as far as sequestration. And so this simply just gives them the authority to set the rules for the CO2 sequestration.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 1037. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 114 yeas and 2 nays, bill passes. Next item, universities and colleges.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to go to item number 41, House Bill 82, and call it up and ask the gentleman from Jones to present the bill.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman from Jones is recognized.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman. On House Bill 82, this is an act that was requested by the community college presidents. It gives the ability for them to have some utility infrastructure, heating, cooling, anything less than $1 million, they will have access to fixing immediately versus going through the Department of Revenue regular processes. And that's basically a summary of the bill. Last year we passed this 119 to 0, and then it died over in the Senate, and the community college president just asked that we bring it back up again. Any questions? I'll be glad to answer.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 82. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 117 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to go to item number 42, House Bill number 113, and call it up and make the usual motion.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman from Jones is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker. I have an amendment also at the proper time.
You're recognized for your amendment.
If it's okay, I'd like to talk about the bill and insert the amendment.
You can do it however you like, gentlemen.
Thank you. This is, again, a bill that was requested by the junior college and community college presidents to change some of the makeup of the board of directors.
Gentlemen, Madam Clerk has asked for a copy of your amendment so she can go ahead and get it in the computer, and we'll be ready to offer it whenever you're ready to present it. Thank you. You're recognized, gentlemen. Go ahead.
Okay. Over on line 57, 58, it talks about Coahoma Community College shall consist of 14 members. Of these members, Coahoma County shall have 6. Tunica County shall have 2. Quitman County, 2. Bolivar County shall have 2. Tallahatchie County, because they've got, this is where the amendment's going to come into play, that of the 2 superintendents that are there, that one of those may be a member of the Board of Trustees, and that one member from each county shall comprise the community college district from the superintendent of education. And then we skip on over, skip on over to line 83, and it talks about the Board of Trustees from Northeast Community College shall consist of 15 members. Prentice County shall have 6. Alcorn County shall have 2. Tippah County shall have 2. Tishomingo 2. Union County 2. And one of the members from each of these counties shall be the superintendent of education if they have received a letter of recommendation from the president of the community college. There is also a typographical error on line 114. Instead of saying Northeast Community College, it says Northwest Community College, and this second amendment will change from Northwest to Northeast.
Questions on the amendment? I don't see any. Oh, the gentleman from Kemper has a question on the amendment. You object to changing the name from Northeast to Northwest?
No, I thought it was something else.
Sir?
No, I'm overruled then.
No, I just asked if you got a question on the amendment.
I don't need to present this one? We're good. Okay.
Okay. The gentleman's offered an amendment to change the name from Northeast to Northwest or vice versa. Which one is it?
On line 114, it says Northwest Community College, and it should say Northeast Community College.
All right. Anybody got a question on doing that? Okay, I don't see any questions on doing that. If you favor that amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Amendment is adopted. You have anything further on the bill, gentlemen?
No, sir.
I think there's another amendment to be offered, I thought. Is there not another amendment?
That was the 2 amendments.
Okay. There were 2 amendments?
Yes, sir.
Well, I missed one. Where was the first amendment?
First amendment was over on Tallahatchie County that said one of the superintendents may be on the trustees.
Okay, we don't have that amendment,
That's the first
gentlemen.
one that I gave you.
That's that one? I don't think we adopted that one, lady. We did? We just adopted that one. Well, then I misspoke then, because I thought we were adopting one to change the name.
I need you. Have you got that amendment?
Okay, tell me, gentlemen, again, what is amendment number 1?
Amendment number 1 is the one you've got right there. Amendment number 2 is changing the name from Northwest to Northeast. That's what I just gave you. I just threw it away.
Give us a second, ladies and gentlemen. Madam Clerk's trying to figure out what transpired. It seemed like the gentleman gave Madam Clerk amendment number 1, but he explained amendment number 2. So we may have we didn't have an amendment. Okay? Okay, well, the amendment that I just voted on was to change the name from Northeast to Northwest. Make that amendment 1, please. All right, now we're going to go to amendment 2. Would you explain amendment number 2, gentlemen?
Yes, sir. Over on line 65, it talked about Tallahatchie County, and that one of the members from Tallahatchie County may be the school board, may be a school superintendent.
All right. Questions on that amendment? The gentleman from Kemper has a question on that amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A while ago during your explanation, you mentioned Kemper County, and you mentioned the 2 trustees in it. And I thought you were saying that the school superintendent of Kemper County would be a board trustee too during your explanation.
I'm sorry, I didn't mention Kemper County. I said Quitman County.
Oh, okay, I thought you said Kemper County. I guess I'm still confused.
Jim from Washington, you got a question on the amendment. Jim from Prentice, you got a question on the amendment. Okay, well, we're doing questions on the amendment. Do we have any questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Amendment is adopted. Now the bill. Jim from Washington, you have a question on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Jim Yield.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me why all the other counties have 2 members and Coahoma only has 1 member? Am I misreading that? There's 2 members from Quitman, 2 members from Bolivar, 2 members from Tallahatchie. Oh, I misread that. I apologize.
Thank you.
Jim from Prentice. Yes, sir. Jim from Prentice, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman Yield.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, does this divert back to where those superintendents can be on the board like they were previously before 2019? Is it just 1 or 2 is the secondary question?
It does revert back, and it gives the college presidents the option that they can be back on the board.
So it's at the college president's discretion?
On the one on Northeast, yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
It is at the request, but the Board of Supervisors have the final option.
It's my understanding that the educational superintendent in Coahoma County will not be able to serve on the Coahoma Community College Board. Is that what is in there?
No, sir. On line 66, it says that 1 member from each county shall comprise the Coahoma Community College District, shall be the county superintendent.
Shall be. Thank you very much.
Don't see any further questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 113. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 113 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Next item.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to go to item number 43, House Bill number 6. Call it up and make the usual motion.
Chairman calls the bill up, moves that the rules be suspended. Bill considered and gross read the 3rd time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
And I'll yield to the gentleman from Rankin to present the bill.
The gentleman from Rankin will present the bill. There is a committee substitute. Gentlemen, you wish to adopt it?
Yes, sir.
Gentleman moves committee substitute be adopted for consideration in lieu of the original bill. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you. House Bill 6 is IHL's hazing bill. We're going to ask them, we're going to require them to form a universal hazing law or policy that will spread across all the university and colleges. That way they're all on the same page. IHL helped write this. They want this. So I'll answer any question if anybody's got anything.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 6. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Everyone voted. Close machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 111 yeas, 6 nays, the bill passes. We have taken up item 44 already. That brings us to item 45, energy. Chairman's at the well. We're going to recognize him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to bring up item 45, House Bill 1063.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules to be suspended. Bill considered and engrossed. Read the 3rd time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 1063, we tried to do in local...
Gentlemen, you got a committee sub.
Yes, sir. I'd like to take up the committee sub.
Gentleman moves committee substitute be adopted for consideration in lieu of the original bill. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, this is, we tried to do this, or the gentleman from Chickasaw tried to do this as local and private. He has a solar farm coming in his district, and he wants to be able to allow anybody who spends $100 million in generating renewable energy, a transformative renewable energy project. Try that again. Designated projects would have to be, would have their property assessed at 8% instead of the normal 15%. This just gives an economic incentive to Chickasaw County to have this solar field. And I have an amendment at the proper time.
You're recognized for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On lines 31 through 33, right now we have it as the population of the 2010 census between 15,000 and 19,000 people. That was the definition that we needed for Chickasaw County. I was approached by the gentleman from Tunica that he has a wind farm that is coming in, and he would like to remove or to lower that threshold to 9,000. That way his economic development can be included in this.
Questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Anything further on the bill?
No, sir.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 1063. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Close machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 117, 18 yeas, 0 nays. The bill passes. Announcements, Mr. Clerk. Announcements, Madam Clerk. Announcements by the members. Gentleman from Itawamba, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to hold House Bill 1301 from yesterday's calendar, item number 1, on a motion to reconsider.
Okay.
I'd also...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'd also like to hold item number 2, House Bill 539, on a motion to reconsider.
Okay, we can do that. Gentleman from Grenada, Mr. Horan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to, on today's calendar, items 19, House Bill 747, and 2928, hold them on a motion, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, we will do that. Gentleman from Harrison, Mr. Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to, if you'll help me in the House, to wish my desk mate that's holding down the North Gallery a happy birthday today.
Gentleman from Marshall, Mr. Kincaid.
Speaker, on today's calendar, item number 10, House Bill 122. I'd like to hold that on a motion, please.
Okay, we can do that. Gentleman from Itawamba, Mr. Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to hold item number 13, House Bill 70 on the motion.
Okay, we can do that. Gentleman from Mark Tibby Hall, Mr. Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the motion to reconsider calendar HR number 14, I would move to table the motion to reconsider.
Those opposed have 5 minutes. Any opposed? I don't see any. If you favor the motion, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Gentleman from Rankin, Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On today's calendar, item number 45, House Bill 1063, I'd like to hold that one on a motion.
Okay, we can do that. Gentleman from Newton, Mr. Rushing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the House's consent, item number 24, general calendar, House Bill 219, I would like to change my vote from yea to nay.
Any objection? Change the gentleman's vote. Gentleman from Choctaw, Mr. Hood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On general calendar, House Bill number 320, item number 6 on the calendar, I was not voted. I'd like to be voted yes.
All right, recorded gentleman's vote. Any other announcements? I don't see any. Recognize the gentleman from Octavia Hall for the motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move we adjourn until 9 a.m. in the morning.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. House adjourned until 9 a.m. tomorrow.